Welcome to another Kraken video. The purpose of this video is to present two new features which are now available with the latest release of Kraken, version 2.5. These features are namely 1. How to create a new process to plot and compare historical versus simulated well data, and 2. How to display histogram data as percentages. So let's get started. To illustrate how to compare historical and simulated well data, let's say for example that we would like to take a look at oil pressure versus depth. For this video I will be using an existing project named Survey, and at this point I will jump over to the screen where it's currently open. To compare historical and simulated data, we first need to create a new well selection process by right-clicking on the main grid, then Processes and Well Selection. We then go to the Data Editors and select the well of interest, which in this case will be Horwell. Once we click on this well, we'll see that only those cells completed by the well are currently displayed within the grid. We can also choose to display the number of adjacent cells by going to Neighbor Selection and increasing the value to 1, 2, 3, etc. as needed. For purposes of this video, let's stay with 0. Next, we can create a crossplot of oil pressure as a function of depth. Do that by going to the main menu, clicking on Window, and New Crossplot. We then plot the historical data for this particular well by selecting it under Field, and in the Data Editor, clicking on Oil Pressure versus Depth to cell center, and dragging and dropping this variable onto the crossplot. We now see that there is a data point for each one of the cells completed by this well. Similarly, we can plot the simulated data for the same well by clicking on Well Selection, creating a grid function for the oil pressure transient, clicking on the variable, and drag and dropping it onto the same crossplot. When asked to select a property, we scroll down and select Depth to Cell Center and click OK. We notice that both datasets are coincident because we are at the beginning of the simulation. However, as we move forward in time, we'll see that these begin to differ. It's worth mentioning that this historical data has been brought in directly from the reservoir simulator, in this case Eclipse. Also, a future version of Kraken will have these variables swapped so that depth to cell center is shown on the y-axis of the crossplot. Finally, we can right-click on the crossplot, make its title visible, and give it a name, such as RFT data for this case. The second feature available in the new version of Kraken is the ability to display histogram data as percentages. To do that, we need to go back to the main grid, click on it, and then come down to the Data Editors and select a grid function. For example, let's right-click on Permeability, Histogram, Show a New Histogram. We now click on the histogram configurations icon and enable the option for percent values. Once we click OK, we'll see that the permeability values are now shown as percentages. Finally, the user is now also able to set custom limits for the properties to be displayed in the histogram by clicking on the property, in this case permeability, and then selecting user-defined limits. This concludes our short overview of Kraken version 2.5. We hope it was useful, and we will see you next time.